Something happened recently in the Strait of Hormuz that wasn't reported on the front pages, but it should make you sit up straight. While the world watches for the flash of a missile or the rumble of a tank, a much more dangerous transition is occurring in the shadows. It's a silent structural shift that renders conventional borders obsolete. If you've been feeling like the world is becoming more volatile, like the old rules of international stability are dissolving, your intuition isn't lying to you. It's a rational response to a pattern that most people are conditioned to ignore. In the next 60 seconds, I am going to show you why the war you think is coming has already been fought and won, not with soldiers, but with a strategic reclassification of power. This is the first domino in a sequence that will change how you view energy, currency, and the very ground you stand on. If you value understanding the hidden mechanics of the world before they impact your life, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We don't just track the news here, we map the machine. What we are witnessing is the perfection of the gray zone strategy. For decades, the West has operated under the assumption that war is a binary. You are either at peace or you are in combat. But there is a third state, a theoretical and practical space where Iran has become the undisputed master. It is the art of the invisible war. It starts not with a raid, but with a slow administrative tightening of the world's most vital choke points. Think about your daily life, the cost of the goods you buy, the heating in your home, the stability of the currency in your pocket. These aren't just economic variables, they are the end products of a geopolitical pipeline that is currently being rerouted. While the headlines focus on loud rhetoric, the actual movement is happening in the spreadsheets of energy conglomerates and the private ledgers of regional banks. The mechanism is simple. If you control the access to a resource, you don't need to own the resource itself. You simply become the gatekeeper. And when the gatekeeper changes, the price of entry isn't just money, it's compliance. This is the stage where the narrative shifts. Most people believe that power comes from the ability to destroy. In reality, true power comes from the ability to make a system stop working without anyone knowing why. We are late in the pattern. The Middle East isn't just a collection of countries, it is the central nervous system of global trade. When Iran expands its influence through invisible means, cyber infrastructure, parallel financial systems, and unconventional alliances, it isn't just fighting for territory, it is rewriting the software of the global economy. By the time the crowd finally realizes the move is real, the easiest access and the best pricing for the world we used to know will already be gone. This is a cold, calculated restructuring of reality that demands your absolute attention. The core of this strategy lies in the concept of proxy sovereignty. Imagine a world where your house, your business, and your savings are technically yours, but the roads leading to them are controlled by someone else. The power lines are managed by a competitor, and the rules for using them change every Tuesday. That is the reality being engineered across the Levant and the Gulf. It is a war of attrition against the Western sense of order. The traditional tools of diplomacy, sanctions, treaties, and summits are increasingly ineffective because they are designed for a world of clear borders and visible actors. But how do you sanction a ghost? How do you negotiate with a network that has no single point of failure? This invisible war is powered by a realization that the West's greatest strength, its interconnectedness, is also its greatest vulnerability. Every ship that passes through a contested waterway is a data point in a larger calculation. Every fluctuation in regional energy prices is a psychological tool. We see this pattern repeat across history. When a dominant system becomes too rigid, too reliant on its own rules, a more fluid actor begins to occupy the gaps. They don't fight the machine, they become the rust within it. They wait until the cost of maintaining the old system exceeds the benefit of keeping it. And that is exactly where we are today. The liabilities of the current Middle Eastern order have exceeded its capacity to function, and the system is looking for a new asset to anchor itself. For the English-speaking world, this is a profound challenge to the end-of-history narrative we've been told for 30 years. We were promised a world of open markets and predictable outcomes. Instead, we are entering an era where ownership is becoming conditional. If you think this is just a regional issue, you are missing the signal. The tactics being refined in the Middle East, the weaponization of infrastructure, the use of economic leverage as a kinetic force, are being exported globally. It's a blueprint for a new kind of empire, one that doesn't need to plant a flag to claim a territory. It simply integrates itself into the architecture of your life until you can no longer distinguish between the service you use and the power that governs you. The strategy is to create a state of permanent ambiguity where the response from the West is always too little or too late because the target is never clearly defined. It is a masterclass in psychological and structural displacement. To understand the depth of this shift, we must look at the historical context of the English-speaking powers. From the British Empire's control of the seas to the American-led global financial system, the philosophy has always been based on freedom of navigation and open markets. Iran's strategy is a direct surgical strike at the heart of this philosophy. They aren't trying to build their own global ocean. They are simply installing toll booths at the most critical intersections. Historically, when global powers faced crises, from the 1973 oil embargo to the 2008 financial collapse, the response was to double down on the existing system. But today, the system itself is being used as the weapon. Iran's actions in the Middle East aren't just regional maneuvers. They are experiments in how to decouple the world from the Western administrative machine. They are proving that you can bypass the SWIFT system, you can facilitate trade outside the US dollar, and you can influence elections and policies without ever declaring a state of war. This is a profound realization for the American and British taxpayer, who often wonders why trillions of dollars in military spending seem unable to secure a permanent peace. The answer is that the military is designed to fight an enemy that wears a uniform and holds a position. But in the invisible war, the enemy is a supply chain, a digital hack, and a shadow bank. It's a war of administrative attrition. We are seeing the end of the era where superior technology automatically meant superior power. In a world of interconnected vulnerabilities, the actor who is most willing to break the rules and who understands the rules best gains the advantage. This is the historical pivot point where the software of control is being hacked. The Iranian strategy leverages the very complexities of modern globalism to create a shield that conventional power cannot penetrate. They have studied the Western reaction to every crisis since the Cold War and have developed the negative strategy that feeds on our predictability. It is a chess game where they aren't trying to take your queen. They are simply convincing you that the board itself is moving under your feet. This is why the common narrative of sanctions are working is so dangerous. It ignores the fact that a new parallel reality is being built where those sanctions have no authority. The final stage of this invisible war is the moment of realization. It's the point where the crowd looks around and realizes the map they are holding no longer matches the terrain. This is the moment when the reset becomes visible to everyone. But as we've seen in every monetary and political crisis throughout history, by the time it's visible, it's already settled. The window to prepare doesn't close with a countdown. It closes when the final domino of the old system falls. In the Middle East, that domino is the myth of absolute control. The new reality is a multipolar, opaque, and highly volatile landscape where the only certainty is change. The people who get crushed in these transitions are the ones who assume the default setting of the last 40 years lasts forever. They see the signals, the premiums, the delays, the shifts in rhetoric, and they categorize them as temporary or isolated. They fail to see the mechanism. But if you recognize what stage the machine is in, you gain the most valuable asset in a crisis: time. You begin to understand that the move to reshape the world doesn't require a global conflagration. It only requires the quiet, persistent application of pressure on the points where the system is most fragile. We are moving toward a conclusion where the invisible war becomes the visible reality. The strategic patience of the last 3 decades is paying off in a way that conventional military analysts failed to predict. They were looking for a blitzkrieg. They missed the slow-motion occupation of the global administrative architecture. As we conclude this analysis, the question isn't whether the world will change, but whether you will be positioned to navigate the new architecture. The invisible war is won by those who see the patterns before they become headlines. It is a war of perception, as much as it is a war of position. If this analysis has given you a new lens through which to view the chaos of the current moment, it has served its purpose. We are standing at the threshold of a different kind of history, one where the silence of the move is more powerful than the sound of the shot. If you want to stay ahead of the next breakdown, if you want to know where the next choke points are being established before they are closed, stay with us. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. In our next investigation, I'll be breaking down the specific financial triggers that indicate the machine is moving to its next phase of global restructuring. Don't just watch the world change, understand why it's happening. The patterns are there. You just have to know where to look. This is the moment to decide if you are a passenger or a navigator. Choose wisely.